In the cold, dark waters beneath Antarctic ice, something extraordinary is happening. Billions upon billions of small, translucent creatures move together in a synchronized dance, forming swarms so vast they can be seen from space. These are Antarctic krill, small crustaceans barely 2 inches long, and they are the foundation upon which the entire Antarctic ecosystem is built. Every creature we've encountered in this series, the emperor penguins marching across ice, the humpback whales traveling 10,000 miles, the leopard seals hunting at ice edges, the enormous elephant seals diving into the abyss, all of them depend directly or indirectly on krill. These tiny animals may be individually insignificant, easily overlooked, vulnerable to countless predators, but collectively, they represent one of the most successful animal species on Earth, with a total biomass estimated at hundreds of millions of tons. They are the beating heart of the Southern Ocean, the critical link between microscopic phytoplankton and the largest animals ever to exist. The story of Antarctic krill is a story of abundance, adaptation, and the intricate connections that bind together one of the planet's most productive ecosystems. Without krill, Antarctica as we know it would cease to exist. Antarctic krill, scientifically known as Euphausia superba, are small crustaceans belonging to the order Euphausiacea. An adult krill typically measures between 1 and 2.5 inches in length, with females generally growing slightly larger than males. They weigh only about 1 gram each, roughly the weight of a paperclip. To hold a single krill in your hand is to hold something that seems almost impossibly delicate, translucent, and fragile. Yet this tiny creature is the cornerstone of the world's most productive marine ecosystem. Their body is segmented, divided into distinct sections like all crustaceans. The head, or cephalothorax, contains the krill's large, black compound eyes. These eyes are remarkably sophisticated for such a small animal, capable of detecting even dim light in the depths of the Southern Ocean. Krill can see polarized light, which may help them navigate and maintain position within swarms. Their eyes are positioned on stalks, giving them a wide field of vision to detect approaching predators from almost any direction. The thorax bears several pairs of legs called thoracopods, which the krill uses for swimming and feeding. When feeding, krill create currents with these legs, drawing water and food particles toward a filtering apparatus near their mouth. They can filter phytoplankton cells from the water with remarkable efficiency, extracting nutrition from the microscopic plants that bloom in Antarctic waters. The thoracopods beat in coordinated rhythm, creating the graceful, almost dancing movement that characterizes swimming krill. The abdomen, or tail section, is the most distinctive part of krill anatomy. It consists of 6 segments, each bearing a pair of swimming appendages called pleopods. These pleopods beat rapidly in coordinated waves, propelling the krill through the water. When threatened, krill can flex their abdomen rapidly, producing a quick backward escape movement that can startle predators and create distance. The tail ends in a fan-like structure called the telson, which acts as a rudder for steering. Perhaps the most remarkable feature of Antarctic krill is their bioluminescence. Krill possess light-producing organs called photophores located along their body, primarily on their eye stalks and along their underside. These organs produce a blue-green glow through a chemical reaction similar to that of fireflies. The exact function of krill bioluminescence is still debated. It may serve for communication within swarms, for counterillumination camouflage, matching the dim light filtering from above to avoid creating a silhouette visible to predators below, for attracting mates, or for confusing predators. When millions of krill gather in dense swarms, their collective bioluminescence can create an eerie underwater glow visible even in complete darkness. The color of krill varies depending on their diet and life stage. Well-fed krill that have been consuming phytoplankton appear reddish or pinkish due to carotenoid pigments in the algae they eat. These pigments accumulate in the krill's tissues and are the reason why many krill predators, from flamingos in other parts of the world to Antarctic fur seals, develop pink or reddish coloration. Starved krill or those feeding on other food sources may appear more transparent or pale. This color variation provides clues to researchers about krill health and feeding conditions. Their exoskeleton is thin and somewhat flexible compared to larger crustaceans like lobsters or crabs. This provides less protection but allows for the transparency that may help krill avoid visual predators. Like all arthropods, krill must molt periodically to grow. They shed their exoskeleton and produce a new, larger one, a process that leaves them temporarily vulnerable. Antarctic krill can molt throughout their lives, even as adults, and remarkably, they can actually shrink during periods of food scarcity by molting to a smaller size, a highly unusual ability among animals. The most striking aspect of Antarctic krill is their tendency to form enormous aggregations called swarms or schools. Individual krill are rarely found alone. Instead, they gather together by the millions or even billions, creating concentrations of biomass that are among the densest of any animal aggregation on Earth. A single krill swarm can contain anywhere from 10,000 to 30 million individuals per cubic meter of water, though densities vary considerably. The largest swarms can extend for kilometers in length and contain billions of individual krill with a combined weight of millions of tons. These swarms are not random gatherings but highly organized structures. Krill within a swarm maintain spacing from their neighbors and coordinate their movements, creating patterns that flow and shift like a living organism. When the swarm moves, individual krill adjust their swimming to maintain their position relative to others, creating synchronized movements that help the swarm maintain coherence. This collective behavior is thought to provide multiple benefits, including improved feeding efficiency, energy conservation, and protection from predators. The reasons krill form these massive swarms are complex and likely serve multiple functions. One hypothesis is that swarming provides protection through the dilution effect. In a swarm of millions, any individual krill has a lower probability of being the one caught by a predator. Swarms may also confuse predators through sheer numbers and movement, making it difficult for a predator to target and track a single individual. Some researchers have observed that predators attacking krill swarms trigger defensive behaviors, with krill near the attack site performing rapid escape movements that create turbulence and confusion. Swarming may also improve feeding efficiency. When phytoplankton is patchily distributed, as it often is in the ocean, a large swarm of krill can locate and exploit phytoplankton blooms more effectively than scattered individuals. Once some krill in a swarm locate food, others may follow, allowing the entire swarm to benefit. The collective filtering action of millions of krill feeding simultaneously can quickly deplete phytoplankton in one area, at which point the swarm moves on to find new food sources. Energy conservation may be another benefit of swarming. Swimming in coordinated groups can reduce drag and energy expenditure, similar to how birds flying in V formation reduce the energy cost of flight. Krill in the center of a swarm may experience reduced water resistance compared to those swimming alone, allowing them to conserve energy during long migrations or when food is scarce. Swarms also facilitate reproduction. During the breeding season, the concentration of males and females in close proximity increases the likelihood of successful mating. Krill reproduce through broadcast spawning, releasing eggs and sperm into the water where fertilization occurs externally. In a dense swarm, the probability that eggs encounter sperm is much higher than if krill were dispersed, increasing reproductive success. The formation and maintenance of swarms requires sophisticated sensory and behavioral mechanisms. Krill likely use multiple sensors to maintain swarm cohesion, including vision, tracking the movement of neighbors. Mechanoreception, detecting water movements created by nearby individuals, and possibly chemical sensing, detecting pheromones or other chemical signals. The coordination observed in krill swarms, while not requiring conscious planning or communication in the way human cooperation does, represents a remarkable example of collective behavior emerging from simple individual rules. From a human perspective, krill swarms are visually stunning and somewhat surreal. Divers or researchers in submersibles encountering a krill swarm describe being surrounded by a living cloud of pink-tinged, glowing organisms that extends in every direction, creating an otherworldly environment where the boundary between water and living mass becomes blurred. The swarms are so dense that they turn the water itself pink, and so vast that they can be detected by satellites monitoring ocean color from space. The life cycle of Antarctic krill is remarkably complex and intimately tied to the seasonal rhythms of the Southern Ocean. Krill can live for 5 to 7 years, an impressive lifespan for such a small creature, and they grow continuously throughout most of their lives through repeated molting. Understanding their life cycle is crucial to understanding how krill populations persist and fluctuate in the challenging Antarctic environment. Antarctic krill reproduce during the austral summer, from December through March, when food is most abundant and conditions are most favorable. Reproduction is seasonal and synchronized, with most krill in a population reaching sexual maturity and breeding around the same time. Females can spawn multiple times during a single breeding season, sometimes as many as 10 times, releasing between 6,000 and 10,000 eggs with each spawning event. Over an entire breeding season, a single female might release over 100,000 eggs, though not all will survive to adulthood. The spawning process is fascinating and unusual. Females release their eggs in batches, which sink slowly through the water column toward the ocean floor. Unlike many marine invertebrates whose eggs float near the surface, krill eggs are denser than seawater and descend, sometimes reaching depths of over 3,000 feet before hatching. This deep spawning may serve several purposes. It removes the eggs from the surface where predation pressure is highest. It may take advantage of deep water currents for dispersal, and it ensures that larvae develop in deeper, more stable water conditions. The eggs develop as they sink, and after several days, they hatch into the first larval stage called a nauplius. The nauplius is barely visible to the naked eye, measuring less than 0.5 millimeter in length. It has a simple, unsegmented body, quite unlike the adult krill form. The nauplius does not feed but lives off yolk reserves contained within its body. Over the following weeks, it molts multiple times, passing through several nauplius stages. As it develops, the larva transforms into increasingly complex forms, passing through stages called metanauplius and then calyptopus. During the calyptopus stages, the larva begins to look more like a miniature krill, with a segmented body and developing appendages. Importantly, the calyptopus larvae begin swimming upward, ascending from the depths where they hatch toward the surface waters where food is abundant. This vertical migration can span thousands of feet and takes considerable time and energy. Eventually, the larvae reach the phacilia stage, the final larval form before becoming juveniles. Phacilia larvae are small but recognizably krill-like, with all the body segments present though not yet fully developed. They feed on phytoplankton, growing rapidly during the productive Antarctic summer. If food is abundant and conditions are good, the phacilia will continue developing and eventually molt into a juvenile krill. The transition from larvae to juvenile marks a critical stage in krill development. Juveniles must feed intensively to build energy reserves before the onset of winter when food becomes scarce. Many larvae and juveniles do not survive this transition. Mortality rates are high, and recruitment success, the number of larvae that survive to adulthood, varies dramatically from year to year depending on environmental conditions. One of the most remarkable aspects of krill biology is their ability to adjust their growth and even shrink in response to food availability. During periods of food scarcity, particularly during the dark Antarctic winter when phytoplankton is virtually absent, krill can reduce their body size by molting to a smaller exoskeleton. This shrinkage reduces their metabolic needs, allowing them to survive on minimal food. When conditions improve and food becomes available again, they resume growing. This ability to shrink and regrow is virtually unique among animals and represents a remarkable adaptation to the feast or famine conditions of Antarctic waters. Krill reach sexual maturity at around 2 to 3 years of age, depending on growth rates and environmental conditions. Once mature, they participate in the annual breeding cycle, contributing to the next generation. Throughout their lives, krill continue to molt and grow, though growth slows as they age. The oldest krill are the largest, and size is often used by researchers to estimate the age structure of krill populations. Antarctic krill are primarily herbivorous, feeding on phytoplankton, microscopic algae that drift in the ocean's sunlit surface waters. During the Antarctic summer, when sunlight returns and ice begins to melt, conditions become ideal for massive phytoplankton blooms. The melting ice releases nutrients that have been locked in the frozen matrix, and the increasing sunlight provides energy for photosynthesis. Diatoms and other phytoplankton reproduce explosively, turning the water green with their abundance. This is the krill's feast season. Krill feed by creating water currents with their thoracic legs, drawing water toward a filtering apparatus near their mouth called a feeding basket. As water flows through this basket, fine bristles filter out phytoplankton cells while allowing the water to pass through. The captured food particles are then moved toward the mouth and consumed. A single krill can filter several liters of water per day, extracting the microscopic plants with remarkable efficiency. When millions of krill feed simultaneously in a dense swarm, they can deplete phytoplankton over large areas, creating visible changes in ocean color detectable from satellites. But phytoplankton is not their only food source. Krill are remarkably versatile feeders, capable of exploiting various food resources depending on what's available. During winter, when the sun disappears below the horizon for months and phytoplankton becomes virtually absent, krill must find alternative food sources. Many krill move to areas of sea ice, where they feed on ice algae, specialized algae that grow on the underside of ice floes. These ice algae form extensive mats in some areas, providing a crucial winter food source for krill when nothing else is available. Krill scrape ice algae from the underside of ice using specialized mouthparts, consuming the algae along with associated bacteria and other microorganisms. This ice algae feeding is so important that some scientists believe the extent and duration of sea ice coverage directly affects krill survival through winter and subsequent population abundance. Years with extensive, long-lasting sea ice tend to produce better krill recruitment, while years with reduced ice coverage can lead to higher krill mortality and lower populations. In addition to phytoplankton and ice algae, krill can also consume zooplankton, other small drifting animals including copepods, larval fish, and even other krill larvae. They may also feed on detritus, particulate organic matter that sinks from surface waters. This dietary flexibility allows krill to survive in an environment where food availability changes dramatically with the seasons. Krill's role in the Antarctic food web cannot be overstated. They are the primary prey for a vast array of predators, effectively functioning as the link between primary producers, phytoplankton, and higher trophic levels. Consider the diversity of animals that depend on krill. Among birds, Adélie penguins, chinstrap penguins, gentoo penguins, and macaroni penguins all feed extensively on krill. Seabirds including petrels, albatrosses, and terns consume krill when available. Emperor penguins feed their chicks partially on krill, though adults eat more fish. Among marine mammals, the list is equally impressive. Crab-eater seals, despite their misleading name, feed almost exclusively on krill, using specialized teeth to filter them from the water, much like krill filter phytoplankton. Antarctic fur seals consume vast quantities of krill, particularly nursing females that need high-energy food. Even leopard seals, those fearsome predators of penguins and other seals, feed on krill when larger prey is unavailable. Weddell seals eat some krill, though they prefer fish and squid. The great whales represent perhaps the most spectacular krill consumers. Humpback whales travel thousands of miles to Antarctica specifically to feed on krill during the summer. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to exist, feed almost exclusively on krill in Antarctic waters, consuming up to 6 tons per day. Fin whales, southern right whales, and minke whales all depend heavily on krill. A single large whale can consume several tons of krill daily, filtering millions of individual krill from the water. Fish species including Antarctic silverfish, icefish, and myctophids feed on krill, particularly larval krill. Squid consume krill. Even some benthic organisms, creatures living on the ocean floor, depend on dead krill and krill fecal pellets that sink from surface waters, incorporating krill-derived nutrients into deep-sea food webs. Scientists estimate that krill predators collectively consume somewhere between 250 and 500 million tons of krill annually. This staggering consumption rate highlights the productivity of krill populations and the Antarctic ecosystem's ability to support such enormous biomass at multiple trophic levels. Antarctic krill are found throughout the Southern Ocean, circling the entire Antarctic continent. However, their distribution is not uniform. They are most abundant in certain regions, particularly around the Antarctic Peninsula, the Scotia Sea, and the areas around South Georgia and the South Orkney Islands. These regions combine deep water, strong currents, ice coverage, and high productivity, creating ideal conditions for krill. Krill are most abundant in the upper 650 feet of the water column during summer, where light penetrates and phytoplankton is abundant. However, they can be found at various depths depending on the time of day, season, and local conditions. Krill perform diel vertical migration, moving deeper during the day to avoid visual predators and ascending toward the surface at night to feed. This daily migration can span hundreds of feet and helps krill avoid predation while still accessing food resources. Seasonal movements are equally important. In autumn, as ice begins to form and expand northward from the Antarctic continent, krill move north with the ice edge, maintaining their position in productive ice edge waters. In spring, as ice retreats south, krill follow it. These seasonal migrations can span hundreds of miles, with krill traveling between summer and winter habitats in a pattern that tracks the annual advance and retreat of sea ice. The relationship between krill and sea ice is one of the most critical aspects of krill ecology and one of the most concerning in the context of climate change. Sea ice provides multiple benefits for krill. As mentioned, ice algae growing on the underside of ice floes provide crucial winter food. Ice also provides refuge from some predators, particularly whales that cannot easily operate in dense pack ice. Ice may also provide surfaces or structures that help krill larvae during their early development. The extent, duration, and thickness of sea ice coverage vary naturally from year to year, and these variations directly affect krill populations. Years with extensive winter ice coverage tend to produce strong krill recruitment, with many larvae surviving to adulthood. Years with reduced ice coverage often show poor recruitment, with fewer young krill entering the population. Because krill can live for several years, These recruitment variations create cohorts of different strength in the population, with some age classes abundant and others scarce depending on ice conditions during their larval year. Long-term trends in sea ice are deeply concerning for krill populations. In some regions of Antarctica, particularly around the Antarctic Peninsula, sea ice extent has been decreasing over recent decades. Winters are shorter, ice forms later and retreats earlier, and the overall area covered by ice is declining. These changes directly threaten krill populations by reducing winter habitat and food availability, potentially leading to reduced recruitment and declining overall abundance. Some monitoring programs have detected concerning trends. In the southwest Atlantic sector around the Antarctic Peninsula, krill abundance appears to have declined by 70 to 80% since the 1970s, though estimates vary and are debated among scientists. Not all regions show the same pattern. Some areas may have stable or even increasing krill populations, but the overall trend in areas experiencing reduced ice coverage is worrying. Climate models project continued ice loss in many Antarctic regions over the coming decades, which could fundamentally alter krill distribution and abundance. If krill populations decline substantially, the consequences would cascade through the entire Antarctic ecosystem, affecting every predator that depends on them. Antarctic krill represent one of the largest unexploited biomass resources on Earth, and this has not gone unnoticed by commercial fisheries. The total biomass of Antarctic krill is estimated at somewhere between 125 and 725 million tons, though estimates vary widely. Even conservative estimates suggest there are more krill by weight than any other single animal species on the planet. This enormous biomass has attracted fishing interest for decades. Commercial krill fishing began in the 1970s, primarily conducted by Soviet vessels. The fishery has continued and evolved, with various nations participating including Norway, South Korea, China, Chile, and Ukraine. Modern krill fishing uses large trawlers equipped with sophisticated technology to locate and capture krill swarms. The ships tow enormous nets through dense swarms, harvesting tons of krill per trawl. The catch is processed immediately on board, as krill deteriorate rapidly after death. Harvested krill are used for multiple purposes. Some is processed into fish meal and fish oil for aquaculture, feeding farmed salmon and other species. Krill oil, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, is extracted and sold as dietary supplements marketed for human consumption. Some krill is processed into feed for livestock and farmed fish. Smaller amounts are used for human food, though krill has not become widely popular as direct human consumption due to processing challenges and taste considerations. Current krill catch levels are around 200,000 to 400,000 tons annually, a small fraction of the estimated total krill biomass. However, the sustainability of krill fishing is a subject of ongoing debate and concern. The fishery is managed by the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, CCAMLR, an international body established to ensure sustainable use of Antarctic marine resources. CAMLR sets catch limits for krill, currently around 5.6 million tons per year for the main fishing areas, though actual catches are far below this limit. The Commission uses a precautionary approach, setting catch limits well below estimated sustainable yields to account for uncertainty in population estimates and ecosystem needs. However, concerns remain about the ecological impact of krill fishing. One major concern is that krill fishing is concentrated in specific areas and seasons, particularly around the Antarctic Peninsula during summer when krill are most accessible. This concentration of fishing effort creates localized depletion, potentially competing directly with krill predators like penguins, seals, and whales that feed in the same areas. Even if overall krill abundance remains high, Removing krill from specific locations where predators are breeding or feeding could cause nutritional stress and population impacts. Another concern is the lack of comprehensive data on krill populations. Surveying krill across the vast Southern Ocean is logistically challenging and expensive. Population estimates have large uncertainties, and we don't fully understand how krill populations fluctuate naturally or how they responding to environmental changes like warming waters and reduced ice coverage. Fishing a population we don't fully understand creates risks of overharvesting or ecological disruption before problems are detected. Climate change represents the largest long-term threat to krill populations. As discussed, krill depend on sea ice for winter survival and successful recruitment. Regions experiencing ice loss are showing signs of declining krill abundance. If ice continues to decline as projected, krill populations could decrease substantially over coming decades. This would have cascading effects throughout the Antarctic ecosystem, affecting not just the predators that feed directly on krill but entire food webs. Ocean acidification, caused by increasing carbon dioxide absorption, also poses potential threats to krill. As water becomes more acidic, it affects the ability of organisms to build shells and exoskeletons from calcium carbonate. While more research is needed to understand the specific impacts on krill, laboratory studies suggest that acidification could affect krill development, growth, and survival. Conservation of Antarctic krill is effectively conservation of the Antarctic ecosystem itself. Protecting krill requires protecting their habitat, particularly sea ice environments. It requires careful management of fishing to ensure that catch levels remain sustainable and don't compete with natural predators. It requires addressing climate change on a global scale, as the warming affecting Antarctic ice is driven by greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. The challenges are substantial, but the stakes couldn't be higher. Krill are the foundation supporting whales, seals, penguins, seabirds, and countless other species. If krill populations collapse, the Antarctic ecosystem as we know it collapses with them. In the dark waters beneath Antarctic ice, a massive swarm of krill drifts with the current, billions of tiny creatures glowing softly in the darkness. Each individual is fragile, vulnerable, seemingly insignificant. Yet together, they represent one of the greatest concentrations of animal life on Earth, the foundation that supports the Antarctic ecosystem from the smallest fish to the largest whales. These tiny crustaceans, each weighing no more than a paperclip, carry the entire frozen ecosystem on their translucent backs. In their survival lies the survival of penguins marching across ice, seals hunting in frozen waters, and whales traveling across oceans. The krill are the keystone, the critical piece without which the entire structure fails. As the climate changes and ice retreats, the fate of these small creatures will determine the future of Antarctica itself. And in that tiny, glowing swarm beneath the ice, we see reflected the interconnectedness of all life and the fragility of even the most abundant species when their world begins to change.